Why is the Ascendant the most important placement in the natal chart? What is up, alienARMy? I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. And today our esoteric topic, we are going to be discussing astrology. We're going to be discussing the Ascendant and why it is the most important placement in someone's natal chart. So let's jump into this. Now, first I'm going to offer a mini disclaimer here. I'm going to be using the words ascendant interchangeably with the word rising sign because you can pretty much call them whatever you feel the most comfortable with. So just to not get confusing, I do have a script, and sometimes ascendant will sound better, sometimes rising sign will sound better, and I am just going to speak according to that, but know that they both mean the same thing, okay? Now, the ascendant or rising sign is the sign that was rising on the east at the time of your birth. And this is why knowing the exact birth time is so important when trying to calculate the ascendant, because if you don't have the exact time, like pretty much down to the minute, you are just not going to get an accurate interpretation of what the ascendant is. The ascendant typically changes from sign to sign every 2 hours, okay? So, I mean, theoretically, you have a 2-hour window if you don't know the exact birth time, but, you know, just to be safe, especially me, I won't read someone's chart unless the exact birth time is known, and also the location, because of the way the earth is shaped. It's not like a perfect circle, so depending if you were born in the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, closer to the equator, there's going to be a different mathematical point drawn of the natal chart. That's why we have intercepted houses and things like that. So yeah, the exact time and place of birth is important when determining the ascendant. Maybe I'll get into intercepted houses in another video, but just to throw in that quick disclaimer there too. And the ascendant, as I just said, is not a technical celestial body or planet. It is a point calculated mathematically on the natal chart, okay? So there's no physical entity of the ascendant, it's a point on the chart. And just from my own interpretations and comparisons of different charts, I do find the ascendant to be very, very important when looking at the whole chart. It sort of encompasses the entire personality in both exoteric personality astrology and esoteric soul astrology, okay? So I do have a video on esoteric astrology if you're not familiar. I will link it below in case you're interested in looking at that. Now, being that the ascendant is the essence of the soul, it is sort of like the language that the soul speaks whilst inhabiting a physical body on earth. And every experience that the soul has is going to be peppered by the traits of the ascendant. The soul will witness and participate in events through the filter of their rising sign. And the ascendant may be likened to somewhat of the icing on the cake, because the cake may be a particular flavor, but whenever you bite into it, you're always going to get the taste of the icing no matter what the flavor of the cake is. So if you want to picture, you know, you're looking at your whole entire chart is the cake. The ascendant is going to really encompass like every point, every planet. Like it's going to be like kind of like the wrapping paper, you know. But if we want to go with the example of the icing, you bite into a piece of cake, you're going to taste maybe the flavor of the cake, but you're also going to taste the icing no matter where you bite into that cake, okay? So it's gonna, like, as I said, it's gonna like pepper it a little bit. It's gonna like give it some seasoning. Now, the rising sign contains the traits that the soul chose to embrace wholeheartedly during that particular lifetime. Sometimes the ascendant is referred to as the mask of the persona, because when one is wearing a mask, they are being viewed at by the characteristics of that mask. And they're also viewing their world through the eye holes of that mask. And the ascendant is like a mask that is not taken off. It is a metaphorical skin that the soul chose to wear whilst experiencing a human incarnation. As the physical skin is the largest organ of the human suit, the ascendant is the largest interface point in which one conducts their human dealings through. The natives' other placements will be colored with the traits and characteristics of their rising sign, and especially any celestial body which makes a formation with the ascendant. Now, what do I mean by formation? I mean different angles and aspects within the natal chart, okay? So conjunction, sextile, trine, square, etc., etc., okay? Now, I'm gonna list the major ones. Obviously, there are other lesser aspects, you know, but I'm just gonna, you know, for the sake of time saving, I'm going to name like the major ones, and if you want to conduct your own research on other types of aspects, then definitely feel free to do so if it interests you. Now, the strongest example of having effect on the ascendant would be any celestial body that is conjunction the ascendant. That means that it's pretty much working in tandem with the ascendant. It's very close to, the degree of that celestial body is very close to the angle. The ascendant is an angle on the natal chart. It's not a celestial body. It's close to that angle. Now, a lot of people, you know, have different views on this. Some say within 8 degrees is a conjunction. Some say within 10 degrees is a conjunction. For me, for like a personal point like the ascendant, I would probably go for within 10. Maybe 8, it really depends. If it's like an inner planet, I would maybe, you know, have a wider, I'd lean more towards 10. If it's an outer planet, I would lean more towards 8, but that's up to you. Any which way is fine, but typically a conjunction is not considered more than 10 degrees away from any celestial body to a point or another celestial body or planet. Now, the strongest example, as I said, is the conjunction. And any planet or celestial body conjunction the rising sign will be very prevalent in the native's persona as well. So not only are they being influenced by the sign of the ascendant, they're also, that planet is sort of like in the passenger seat, right? If you want to imagine like the soul's journey, like, you know, taking on the traits of the ascendant, if there's a planet in conjunction with that, that means the two of them are like kind of working together. So you might also notice strong aspects of that particular planet in someone's personality when you're looking at their chart. And a planet that is a planet or celestial body, the sun and moon are luminaries, so that's why I just say celestial body, you know, just to kind of group everyone in there together, okay? But a celestial body, if it is in conjunction with the ascendant, it might also dominate over that chart, okay? It might not be the dominant planet, it might be, but you might tend to notice that that individual tends to express traits of the planet conjunction their ascendant, maybe more so than you would recognize any other placement in their chart, okay? I hope this is not getting confusing. Now, a trine or a sextile from a celestial body to the ascendant will make a peaceful alliance with the characteristics of the ascendant, okay? So they're working in harmony together. It's not going to come off as strong as a conjunction, but they're going to flow smoothly and they're going to get along, and, you know, like you're going to see like a pleasing kind of relationship between them. Now, the opposition is going to give off a strong dynamic, like that magnetic kind of like push and pull, right? Because they're opposite. And in this area, if someone has like a planet in opposition to their ascendant, they might definitely feel that dynamic. There might be an area that they're consciously aware of, that they're sort of like a little like tightrope walk. They're like, woo, woo, like I don't want to go too far on this side, I don't want to go too far on that side, right? It's sort of like, it's something that they'll maybe be aware of, and they might have some issues going on in their life with those two polarized energies, and they most likely will be aware of it. Now, this is definitely not a negative trait, it's just something that really needs to be balanced out and sort of stabilized. A square to the ascendant, okay, may cause a noticeable dynamic energy as well, though with the square it is oftentimes not recognized by the native. So if you have a square anywhere in your chart, not just, you know, between the ascendant and wherever. You might not be aware of those traits unless you're really studying your chart. It's something that's sort of like unconscious, okay? Because when two energies are squared, they're kind of like, there's a little bit of friction just because they don't communicate well with each other. Now, outsiders may see the energy of the square expressed quite clearly, okay? So if you have a planet, celestial body that is square to your ascendant, you might be totally like oblivious to its effect on you, but other people are likely to notice that. So that's one thing that I personally just, you know, I channeled that, and I also have observed that, okay? And I really find that to be just something so interesting. It's sort of like an unconscious, unaware, like think of square as being unaware. Now, once the native becomes aware of the square, then they can consciously direct that like kinetically charged energy betwixt the two, okay? So the square requires awareness, and it's kind of easy because it rhymes, right? When taking note of the characteristics of one's ascendant, it's important to notate as well the governing celestial body of the sign of the ascendant. So what do I mean by this? This is the governor, which I call it the governor, is the natural ruler of that sign, okay? So let's say you have Libra rising, Libra ascendant. Venus is the governor of Libra natally, like that's the natural ruler, okay? And so on and so forth. Like Aries would be Mars, Pluto would be Scorpio, and you would just go down the line. So you want to take note of the ascendant sign, their natural governing planet, as this will modify the traits and characteristics of the ascendant. Now, again, what do I mean by this? For example, two individuals may have the same ascendant, as I said, Libra rising, let's just stick with that. Now we know that Venus is the natural governor of Libra, so we'll look to where Venus is placed in each of the natives' charts. Person A has Venus in house 8, while person B has Venus in house 3. Though they're both Libra rising, person A with Venus in house 8 might come off as more emotionally inclined than person B, who has Venus in house 3, which is an air house. They might come off as more logically or intellectually inclined, okay? So it really depends on how it plays out, where the governor, okay? Sometimes this is also referred to as the chart ruler. A lot of times people will say that this is the dominant planet also. I don't really, you know, again, like different strokes for different folks, but this is also aka the chart ruler. You want to look to where that planet, celestial body is placed in the chart. Chart ruler, yes, okay. Dominant planet, I don't know. The verdict is out on this one. If you find that to be a dominant planet, then, you know, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. For me, it really depends. I take everything into consideration, but it's still important to figure out where the governing planet of the ascendant sign is located in the chart, because that's really going to also filter too into, you know, that peppering and that coloring of the traits of the ascendant. As I said, if person A has their chart ruler in a water house, no matter what, even if it's not a water ascendant sign, they still might be more emotionally driven, whereas someone, if they have their, you know, their chart ruler, the governor of the sign of their ascendant, in an air house, then they're going to be more intellectually or logically inclined, no matter what the trait, no matter what the sign of their ascendant is, okay? So I kind of think I explained that well. Maybe I didn't, but if you have a question, just ask, you know? I have Mercury in the 3rd house, by the way, so I'm like, zip, 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 and like my brain works faster than my tongue. So now the two individuals, as I said, with the same rising sign, may behave totally different, not only because of other factors in their chart, which also play a role, but because the governor of their ascendant is functioning differently for each of them. Now, as for evolved and unevolved, one may recognize that earlier along during their journey, they might have exhibited more of the unevolved traits of their ascendant sign, and as they progress and spiritually mature, they are going to start noticing and embracing the evolved and more positive qualities and characteristics of their ascendant sign. Okay, and this is something that the native might notice about themselves. As they begin to progress, they will begin to incorporate the evolved and beneficial characteristics of their ascendant sign into their persona. Now, this is one of the expressions that the soul chose to learn during this lifetime. How to unify the positive and negative qualities of their ascendant sign into their being. Okay, so this is what the soul chose, like the characteristics of this sign. They're going to look through the filter of this sign. They're going to take in and absorb information through the filter of this sign. They're just basically all about the sign. Okay, so they're really going to kind of notice it with themselves. All right, especially the more spiritually evolved one becomes, they start resonating more with the characteristics of their soul, and they sort of see their personality as like their human suit personality, and they see their soul as who they really are. Okay, so of course they're going to want to embody like the beneficial characteristics into their soul, because that's what's going to help you know, make them whole and complete more so than they already are. Like they're going to keep filling their cup and filling their cup. So essentially, the native's lifetime will be in search of finding ways to incorporate the characteristics of their rising sign into their experience. This is the mask the soul wears, and they're gradually fulfilling themselves with the characteristics of their ascendant sign, so that it no longer is a mask and it sort of becomes blended into them, right? Like, as I said, like becoming more whole, becoming more complete, like finding the hidden aspects of themselves that they came into this lifetime searching for. Now it's no longer a mask, and it melds perfectly into the soul's form, and full potential expression is realized. This is the evolved individual who embraces the positive qualities of their rising sign every time, in every situation, in all ways, on all days. I don't know why I throw a lot of rhymey shit in here, but you know, that's just the way I channel, okay? Now, this is the individual, the evolved individual, who walks this earth in a contented state of bliss. They wear a mask no more, and the shadow of who they were trying to be fades away. They now are who they came here to be as. How well do you resonate with your ascendant sign? Do you feel its influence on you along your journey? What do you consider to be the most beneficial characteristics of your rising sign that you would like to incorporate more of into your experience? That's some food for thought, right? And that was it for today's esoteric chit chat. It was a little bit all over the place, but you know, hopefully you got some resonance, where, you know, is always our intention that those who are meant to receive resonance do so well. I am Oculus, the alien next door. As always, peace, the good vibes, and namaste. Blessed, because you are.